You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah!
All right, welcome back to round two of our show today on Tuesday morning. I just had Larry Walters on here from the fairtax.org. If you want to know more about fair tax, how that we can get rid of the Infernal Revenue Service, go to fairtax.org, fill out a petition to your congressman, senator, the people that represent you, and let them know how you feel about the fair tax. But anyway, if you want to know a little bit more about cars, want to know a little bit more about diagnostics, want to know a little bit more about these strange drivability complaints that maybe you can't get your hand on, or your shop can't get their hand on, because sometimes it takes special training, it takes special equipment, it takes testing equipment. Give you an example. A customer comes in, we use a 5-gas machine on everything. And people go, what's a 5-gas machine? Well, it looks at 5 types of gases. It looks at how much oxygen's in the exhaust coming out. It looks at how much nitrogen's in the exhaust. It looks at how much carbon monoxide's in the exhaust. It looks at how much carbon dioxide's in the exhaust, and it looks at hydrocarbons. Now, hydrocarbons are unburnt fuel, and so is carbon monoxide. Both of those are, those are not good things you want to see coming out your exhaust, because that makes smog, along with NOx. NOx is nitrides of oxygen, and the higher the numbers of that, the more smog you have out there, which it reacts with sunlight and it makes that haze out there. That's why we put catalytic converters on there to get rid of oxides of nitrogen, to break it into nitrogen or into oxygen, and we get rid of and it burns up the hydrocarbons, so we don't have hydrocarbons coming out. And carbon monoxide, we don't have that coming out the tailpipe in abundance. Matter of fact, someone said, well, I want to end it all. I'm going to go into my garage, start my car up, and just go to sleep. Well, unfortunately, with today's newer cars, that doesn't happen. Not unless you have something that unless you got something wrong with your car. I'm serious. You do not get carbon monoxide out your tailpipe. Contrary to popular belief out there, all you do is get carbon dioxide out your tailpipe. You get carbon dioxide and oxygen, and you don't get any nitrogen. You don't get any carbon monoxide. You just get carbon dioxide, and you don't get anything that's going to give you anything but a nasty headache. That's what's going to happen. But on cars, we use that 5-gas machine in more ways than just telling what's coming out the tailpipe. It tells us how rich the car is running. It tells us how lean the car is running. It's telling us if we got too much oxygen in there. It tells us if we got exhaust leaks. We can tell all that by just sticking at the tailpipe and looking at the numbers and going, okay, what does that mean? All right, we got those numbers. Something's wrong. Let's go a little bit more investigating. But we also use that 5-gas machine for finding leaks. Like say you've got an EVAP leak. Say you've got a car that this elusive leak, you've tried and tried and tried to figure out where your check engine light comes on. You keep getting a P0456 or a P0455 or a P0442, whatever the code may be on the evaporative emission system, and you've had this replaced, you've had that replaced, you've had this done, you've had that done, and you still have that dreaded PO emission related code. So when we get a car like that, we do all the testing on it like we're supposed to. We put the smoke machine to it, we seal the system off, we exercise the purge valve, the vent valve, we make sure everything seals the system like it's supposed to, and we see if it holds pressure, a little bit of pressure. We're not talking about a lot, we're only talking about maybe 1 psi, 1.5 psi, hardly any pressure at all, but that's enough to tell us if we got a problem. And we check on that. But say we can't find that leak. It won't hold pressure. That little ball just won't sit down and go on the ground. And you're looking for it, and you're looking for the smoke to come out, and no matter how hard you look, you just can't figure out where that smoke's coming out. You know it's coming out someplace because the little ball won't settle down. And you go, where is it? So you take out that 5-gas machine, and you take that wand that you normally put up the tailpipe, and you start running it down the lines wherever that emission system is, and you start running it and you start watching it. And when you start running it down, all of a sudden you see your hydrocarbons jump up to 5,000. You know that's where the gasoline vapors are coming out, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for gasoline vapors from your fuel tank, and that's where the 5-gas machine comes in. We may not even see the smoke coming out, because we're talking about these leaks can be as small as 20 thousandths of an inch. 20 thousandths of an inch ain't real big, boys and girls. It's a tiny, tiny leak out there, and that tiny, tiny leak will set a check engine light. With that, and we're talking about this is on rubber hoses. You know, that's what cars have. They have plastic and rubber and metal hoses, and where the connections go together. Sometimes they don't seal real good. Something happens. O-ring goes bad. A clamp doesn't hold right. One didn't get tightened down. You can't figure it out. Well, that's where the 5-gas machine comes in. When we see that machine go off, we know we're in the area, and we can start narrowing it down to where the area is, and we can find the problem. That's one way you can use a 5-gas machine. Another way to use a 5-gas machine on something that's not necessarily coming up the tailpipe, you can actually use this to find out if you have a blown head gasket. And that's right, you can actually take a 5-gas machine, take the reservoir bottle that normally where you put your extra coolant in, you know, it keeps bubbling up. Say you think you got a blown head gasket, you're not sure, your overflow bottle keeps bubbling and everything. So what you do is you get your car, you release the radiator cap where it's not on there very, very tight, and that way any exhaust gases or any pressure that builds up in the radiator will go into that empty reservoir bottle. Because you don't want to be sucking a coolant up through your 5-gas machine. Those machines do not like liquids. They do not like liquids at all. They really don't, whether it's water or it's gasoline, they don't like liquids. So because they're looking for vapor is what they're looking for. They're looking for in the gaseous state using an infrared spectrometer is what they're actually using. It's a little bench in there that's using infrared, and it shoots a beam across there, and that laser beam that it's in there, it can differentiate along with a NOx sensor and an oxygen sensor and all the other little goodies inside there, what the concentrations of oxygen, nitrogen, hydrocarbons, and carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide are inside the system. It can determine all that and give you percentages or parts per million. And that's what we do. But that's what's going on when we do that. We can actually see what's going on. If we start a car up and it starts up fine and we don't see any problems with it, and we got that in there and we're running it and we're running the engine, and we don't see the hydrocarbons or carbon monoxide inside the radiator. Now, we may see some hydrocarbons. It is normal to see some hydrocarbons in your radiator, because what do you think antifreeze is made from? It's made from oil. Honest to goodness, I swear, it's made from oil. And you're going to get some hydrocarbon readings. It's not uncommon to have 20, 30 hydrocarbons, parts per million when you're checking out a cooling system. Yeah, that's normal. But if you have those hydrocarbons in there and you have an abnormally any carbon monoxide, I'm serious, if you got any carbon monoxide inside there, you got problems. You got a blown head gasket, something leaking, something's wrong, and you're going to have problems that you're not going to be able to fix unless you do mechanical work on this, tearing things apart and putting it back together again after you fix what's wrong with it. That's another way to use a 5-gas machine. We have cars come in all the time. People pull their hair out. They've done this, they've done that, they've done this, they've done that. All these things just to be able to figure out what's wrong with the car, thinking they're fixing it. And what they end up doing is they never really treated the problem. They treat the symptom. A car runs hot, change the thermostat, change the radiator, change the water pump, change all these things. Still, a car runs hot. The problem is they got a blown head gasket. And they could have sure saved a lot of money. Now, they may need to have a new radiator because that's probably what caused it. Or maybe needed to have a new water pump because maybe that's what caused it. But they need to have these things taken care of. But they need to treat the problem, not the symptom. The symptom just tells you there's a problem and you need to figure out why it's running hot. If the car runs hot, you better figure out why. And it gets rather expensive to put all these things in here and not diagnose it correctly. So that's where a 5-gas machine can come in to find out about if you've got a blown head gasket. Now, we had another car come in here. I got a couple minutes left. Car comes in, got a, get this, running rich. It's a 1999 5.7 Vortec engine, running rich on bank 1, running lean on bank 2. Okay, how could that happen? All right, and also it showed oxygen sensor, bank 1, sensor 2 dead. Just really weird things. I'm going, okay, what's going on? So we checked the car out. We agree, yes, there's an oxygen sensor has a problem on the back there. And they said, okay, here's one that's not responding. But that wouldn't explain why the car has a running rich and running lean code and a random misfire. Has random misfires. So we hook up our our fuel pressure gauge to it. We notice the fuel pressure wants to slowly drop down. It takes about 10 minutes and we go from 60 psi to 0 psi. And we notice the car, when it's been sitting for a while, after we shut the car off and let it sit for 30 minutes or whatever, it takes longer than normal to start. And then when we do get it to start, we notice the numbers are extremely high on our 5-gas machine. Lots of hydrocarbons, lots of running rich. And we're going, wow, how can that be? And so we're sitting here going, well, we know we're losing fuel pressure, but we don't know where it's losing it at. So we pinch off the return lines going to the back or try to block them off, and we still got a problem. It's not going out it's not going back to the fuel tank. So we start looking at it going, well, how can we tell if it's a leaky injector? Well, the problem you got on a leaky injector is, you have to have a machine to do it, but sometimes, you can actually sit there and see how much, when you energize that injector, how much it drops down. And you can see if it's working that way. But in most cases, it's not always that easy. And that's where the 5-gas machine comes in, because these Vortec engines are really, really bad about having the pressure regulator, which is underneath the intake manifold. You got an upper intake manifold plenum, and you got a lower intake manifold. The lower intake manifold is where the injectors are stuck in, the little poppets, and this is like a spider. I call it a spider injector. And it's got these little poppets, and it's got a pressure regulator on there that regulates the fuel pressure to about 60 psi, and you've got a lot of pressure coming to it, and what it doesn't use goes back to the fuel tank. And that little regulator will leak. Now the problem is, you can't see that little regulator. You can't even get a bore scope down there to look to see if it's leaking on a V8 engine. Now on a V6 engine, piece of cake, you take a little inspection cover off, look down inside it, it's wet, no problem whatsoever. So I'm sitting there scratching my head yesterday going, how can we fix this? And then I said, I know how. Let's grab our 5-gas machine. We opened the throttle body up, stuck it down inside there. Remember, there should be nothing in that throttle body. All that is just air. That's all that's in there. There should be no fuel in there. All of a sudden, our 5-gas machine goes off the chart. Raw fuel inside there. Raw fuel means our injector poppets or something inside there is leaking. And to repair that means we get to tear half that engine apart to replace those poppets and that pressure regulator. And once we get in there and replace that, that'll stop the random misfire. That's going to stop that rich code and that lean code. All those are combined together to form this problem that's right there that you can't see, but a 5-gas machine can help find and diagnose the problem. Hey, this is James Morris. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.